So again, using soapy water and a rag, obviously spray the soapy water on the rag and then gently wipe away the dirt. And I've also managed to get rid of the paint that was on the glass there, so it's looking pretty schmick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that inside here so it doesn't get any dust on the back end inside the glass, because I actually just washed that as well and used a hairdryer to get rid of the to dry out the water that was in there. It's looking pretty good. So I painted the outer supports, or the rings. They go obviously on here, and you can see where the little tabs are there. They pertain into here, so it's a matter of putting that in and then twisting it on, and that should pretty much cover it. I'm actually thinking about potentially putting a little bit of RTV inside the grooves there, just to kind of create a bit of waterproofing. So not 2 moments after I had it working and I was trying to adjust this, did I break it. So what I've done is I've removed the nut and bolt out of the back altogether, and I'm trying to show you here, see if you can see it. There, you can see the wire there. Now that wire needs to be soldered onto there. It's just come off. The other thing I've noticed too was, you can see if I can do this without again breaking it. If you look on the bottom of the roll, you can see there's a raised section there. Can you see the square there? Now that's supposed to keep these units, I think, in track down here. Now if you loosen these nuts too much, what will happen is that'll come out of its seat down the bottom there and it'll spin. So this whole unit will spin inside and pretty much then break something like one of the wires in here. So what happened was I pulled it apart and I discovered that this one over here was broken because I was spinning this one around, and just now when I was testing it, this one broke, which comes over to this side. So what I'll need to do is I'll need to unscrew this. So unscrewing this will then give me access to take, I'll do that now, all one-handed. No, she's quite fiddly. And so now that I've got that there, I can effectively remove that altogether. And there you are, there's a little coil pack or whatever you want to call it. I know nothing about electronics, so all I know is I'm going to grab this end here, see if I can bring it here, there you go, and solder it onto that end there, then put it all back together. And I'll show you the finished result. Not sure if that makes it any better with the light on, but you'll see there's the soldered wire there. So what I've found that works for me anyway is, before you put the nut on top there, on here, right, make sure you wind up as much of the coil as you can. There's a certain limit though, you can't do it to perfection, but try to wind it up so that there's not so much hanging around as such, and then try to tidy it up. Like I try to make sure it's just kind of nicely tucked in there. Alright, so now I'll put the bottom washer and screw nut, and then the top. So let's go through this again. I'll attempt to show you how it works. Now I've just moved this one a little bit further down and it's made a huge difference to the range. So moving these closer or further back will impact the travel. So what I've been doing is I'll take the power off, and on the back here, as I said, you just lightly unscrew it, not too much, just enough. So I'll just do that now. It's just enough to move it, and you can see now I can slide it back and forth. I think I'm pretty close now, so starting from the bottom, so as I suspected, one coil's fighting against the other, so if all I did was I dropped this one here just a slight bit further out, which then enabled the needle to go further up towards the top one because that one had more oomph, so to speak. So yeah, so this is how I think you can calibrate it, but I don't think it's ever going to be 100%. But anyway, I'll keep playing with that. But at least you get the idea of how this thing works, how it's put together. Obviously I've got to put that in there at the end, but yeah. So if you find that it's not working, it's probably because one of these little wires has snapped off the solder. And you can see right underneath there, in there, you can see another coil. I haven't taken this apart enough to have a look, and I don't really want to because I don't want to risk that being, breaking, so we'll leave it at that. I think this is probably as close as I've got it. So you can see here it's all on. It's right on the empty. There you go. And now if I move the float, and then it sticks to there. The only issue is you notice that it jumped from about just over 3/4, that bit there. Notice how it just drops. Not much I can do about that. Maybe I can just play with the... but the main thing is that from there down it's quite smooth until the empty, which I think is the most important bit. Anyway, I'll leave this fuel gauge here for now, and at least I know that the float sensor is working fine as well. Alright, so you've just seen we've done the fuel gauge. The rest of it's ready to be put together in its appropriate place here inside the framing. So we'll do all that, and it's effectively reversal of putting it in, so I'll get cracking on doing that now. So this one here, you can see a little bit of the RTV in there, but that's effectively done. And now with this one, just been putting this one together. You've got those clamps on the back here that hold it in place, and of course we've got the additional clamps here that we'll look at in a moment. But now I can put the glass in and then the cover using RTV again. One thing to be mindful of is, well, firstly that this separates from there, and has an O-ring. You can see that in there, but I'm trying to not disturb as much as possible. That's probably a bit too late now, but you'll see there's a slot there on the casing right there. Now that slot corresponds to that slot over here, and I didn't find that out until I was trying to figure out why this glass top did not sit flush, because yes, I didn't realize that we had that slot there. So now by putting that in there and aligning it, she sits flush. which is what you want. The gauges are complete now, put back together. Reasonably happy with it. Obviously, being 50 years old, it's never going to be perfect, but then again, that's the way I like it. But at least I know now that the fuel gauge is working. Obviously, other things like the main beam, it's just a globe in there, so there's no issues there. And I moved the speedometer inside here and to make sure that that was working okay, and it was, as I mentioned earlier. But of course, I've still got the original gauges on the 2A, so these are the ones I'll put back in, simply because I've now serviced them, but I've got the other ones as parts. And now the next thing I need to do is to put them against the fascia. Now, I'm still unsure whether to keep this patina. Look, I do kind of like it, but obviously, like anything else, I'm not sure whether or not it's the final look that I want, particularly for a dash. Maybe with the dash I'll have it nice and polished, but I'll see how we go. Oh, so there we have it, all back together. Works great. So I'm very happy with that. It's actually growing on me, this the patina that I've left here, but again, see how we go. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. I've certainly learned a lot on the way, especially when it comes to the electrics. There wasn't much information on how the fuel gauge works, so I'm hoping that that's going to help somebody else as well if they've got problems with the fuel gauge. Everything else is pretty much straightforward, I think. I'm glad I fixed the key up as well. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching.